The seagulls follow the trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, welcome aboard the Boise bus. It is post-match push time. I am joined tonight by Terry, Rob, as always. It's just me and you tonight, Terry. You've got me all to yourself, big boy, just what you always wanted, mate.
Well, listen, see before you start, I'm going to tell you off. See if you ever cut me off when I'm singing Haksabanovic song again. That'll be the last time I'll be on the show.
Fucking hell, man. We
Here.
have a bit of crack on here, don't we?
Have you heard that? You know what song I'm talking about, don't you?
I go on.
Do you know the words? Do you know the words of the last player that song was sang after?
Go on.
Gary Caldwell Heed. Gary Caldwell Heed. Na. Do you not remember that though?
No, I don't remember. I don't ever remember singing his name.
Gary Caldwell Heed. That was the words. Anyway.
That's brilliant. I know. Anyway, it was a big day, Terry, because today Celtic got back into action and found the back of the net. Not once, not twice, as I was randomly had it saying Celtic 2-1 as the banner when the intro credits were playing. So I've quickly changed that to now say 6 in capital letters. But it was 6 very much of the best. James Forrest becomes a centurion, not in appearances and goals. Out from the cold and in with a hat-trick. Giakoumakis does exactly what it says in the 10. Another double from him. And at one point, Terry, we had our wish. Kyogo and Chaos on the park at the same time. You just knew one of them was going to get injured. It actually looked like
two of them looks like they get injured.
I know. And I'm like, maybe there is a reason. Maybe there is just a hex on them two playing together that Ange is like, well, this is what happens. But it was great to see them on the park and that ambition of ours being sort of lived out.
Did you notice, did you notice that Iguchi sneaked onto the bench? Yet another number 6 on the bench.
Yeah, another number 6, and 6 being the key number today, mate. But yes, he's got, James McCarthy got more minutes again. I'll say it, Aaron Moy was brilliant today, right? And that's the last time I've ever seen.
Did you think so? Did you think so?
I thought
he was good. Yeah, he was all right. He still looks as if he's pulling a caravan, like.
Oh, he's slow, but even today, I thought, no, I was more impressed with him today. He's been
2 assists.
Actually.
He 2 assists. So he was trying. He was trying the right passes. He was looking for the cutting edge.
But he does that wee clip over ball. He's tried it a million times, but today it paid off. And it was a goal as well for Danger Maeda, who has been, he's copped a bit of flack. I think some of it's been absolutely fair, though, Terry. I think there's no two ways about it. His performance levels have dipped massively. Obviously, sometimes that can get exaggerated and turn into something it's not. But what we can say is it was great to see him back in the goal scoring charts, and hopefully that is going to lead to a more confident Maeda as well. And a more confident, I think we can now say, Terry, Celtic in general. I think this strange, what's that word? I think you might have used it the other day. Is it profligacy in front of goal?
Definitely not. That wasn't me.
Profligate. Aye, someone said they're profligate in front of goal. I was quite impressed. But I think undeniably, whatever reason we have been, not just, goal shy, but whatever that stems from, whether it's a confidence thing, whether it's the fact we were combining Champions League games and there was more pressure, but it crept into our league form. Today, we blow that back out the water. We look much more like the team that we were, waxing lyrical over in August and September. And that is what we wanted. This is the reaction I wanted to see for the team. I'll be honest, I think I predicted Terry 2-1. I thought it was going to be a far more cagey affair. Do you think that's that sort of dip in form? And I think it's fair to call it a dip in form. Do you think that's it, over and done with, Terry? That monkey's off the back now? Do you think maybe the clarity of knowing that they're out the Champions League group as well might just be, I know it's shit, but it just can sometimes, the path now for Celtic this season is going to be domestic, unless, a real stroke of good luck in European terms to go into the Europa League. I think that's maybe just giving them a bit of clarity. They've dusted themselves off, back to league duty, playing with no fear. I liked what I seen today, Terry.
I was confident the goals would come back. Boys, I've been said it for the last couple of weeks. You can't keep missing those chances. The guys who are missing them are too good for it to continue. I did have a sort of good feeling about today. I thought being back at home again, totally lost what I was going to fucking say.
Sorry, mate. The comments coming.
I know.
They're funny.
What was I saying? Hibs. I had a good feeling. The games against Hibs are always open. They're always good. When the lineups came through, probably more changes than what I was expecting, but I would much prefer he makes the changes in the home games. I think it's much easier when you're playing on your own ground with your own supporters, wide open pitch. I think it's easier to bring in the number of changes that he made, 3 or 4. I was surprised to see Forrest start, to be honest. Obviously, I'm glad that I did, and I thought he did very well. And to be honest, looking forward to Wednesday night, I'd be surprised if Forrest doesn't start that game as well. To me,
what is happening, eh?
Yeah, the jersey's his. If he's in that kind of form, the jersey's his. And even when Abada came on, Abada had a few chances, and he just seems to be snatching at them a wee bit at the minute. Whereas before, you'd have had your mortgage and Abada finishing. But I think
Abada is snatching a bit. That's a great point. He is a wee bit. You're right.
I just think that the changes that have been made now, Ralston's got a couple of games under his belt. He looked absolutely fine. Bernabeu looked competent at left back as well. Probably the fears that you would have had a month ago, if anything happens to Taylor, were fucked. Probably domestically, we would get, Bernabeu's going to be okay for any domestic match. You can see the confidence, the delivery today for Giakoumakis's finish. That was excellent, and that's off the back of the St Johnstone winner last week as well. So those two, I know it's really, really early and it's only 2 moments, but there might be some kind of relationship building there where when Giakoumakis sees Bernabeu in that position, he knows the ball's going to come in, he knows there's going to be a reasonable delivery, and Bernabeu knows that he knows where Giakoumakis is going to be. So impressed with those two. Ralston had a really important role in one of the goals as well, with an excellent pass. Who else came in? Forrest came in, scored a hat-trick. Haksabanovic started on the left. I thought he was excellent. I really enjoyed his performance in the first half.
Confused he was taken off. I've not had any confirmation.
He had a knock. He had a knock. He started. And said he started the game with a knock, and he said once the kind of the result, was in the bag, it just made sense to give him a rest. But I enjoyed watching him. He looks a wee bit like an old-fashioned sort of street footballer, just the drop of the shoulder, trying to make things happen all the time. Yeah. And when he set up that first goal, that was probably his 3rd or 4th sort of involvement in creating opportunities in the early parts of the game. And yeah, I mean, if you told me a few weeks back, even after the Rangers game, you'd be starting you'd be starting a game with a front three of Forrest, Giakoumakis and Haksabanovic. I probably wouldn't have believed that, but it went okay today. It went good today.
Point, mate. Yeah. It's a brilliant point you make. We've seen squad rotation get done this season, Terry, and we've seen it not work out, shall we say. The St Mirren debacle, or debacle, whatever that word is one that will live long in the memory. Obviously, today we've seen the benefits of having the strength and depth, and I think it was good though as well. I think undeniably, for someone like Moy, you're saying, the 2 assists, and whilst I've been underwhelmed by his signing, and that seemed to cause uproar for fuck's sake. I mean, it is an underwhelming signing. I think today he probably needed that performance as well, because I think even his biggest champions were watching him and thinking he's not really adding. In fact, he looks like a square peg for a round circle. Do you know what I mean? It didn't look like he fit. Today he did great, and fair play to him. James Forrest, we were talking about with Regan last week on the Sunday Blether, what role Jink is, and I'm more off the field now. I think he's someone that's very important for the continuity at Celtic and all that.
Nice first choice on the right.
Now he's starting the Champions League for me and Terry. It's so true. And then you've seen guys like Haksabanovic come in, who Haksabanovic has now been used on the left. He's been used in that sort of number 10 sort of role as well. I think what I like about Haksabanovic is he kind of runs towards goal as well with the ball. He doesn't go up the wings. He runs towards goal. He's very direct. And I think as well, he's got that wee bit of swagger that I think all teams need. He seems to play completely fearlessly, if that's a word as well. But Jamesy, all credit goes to him. And then Giakoumakis, I mean, this is the thing, Terry. It's so easy. We're talking midweek, you had to be stronger and all that. See, if you forget all that stuff, though, again, he was on the park for 15, 20 minutes midweek. He's in that position. He's creating that chance. When this guy starts, how much easier is it to take your chances when you've got that natural feel for the match that you're involved in, rather than coming in from the cold off the bench and then being judged on that? Do you know what I mean? Oh, he never scored today. Didn't exactly set the place alight. It's far more difficult for a sub to do that. It is.
I loved his first goal. I loved the first goal. I thought it was the finish. It was the finish of a natural finisher. He didn't
another FTF.
Just put his laces through, but it was controlled at the same time. It was controlled. Another first time finish, and just going back to, I mean, today he didn't get bullied today, and he was up against a recognised tough tackling centre back.
So he thinks.
Yeah.
So he thinks the fucking referee, tell you what, he seems to think he's a nice, fair, tough tackling defender. That ref was awful today.
Yeah.
I don't know what you made of his performance, but sometimes you're better, by the way. Not that I like to talk about refs all night. We'll just say it briefly. We won 6-1, but just so folk don't think we use it as excuses, the ref was shite today, and we're saying it now, right? So it's better to say when you've won him.
He wasn't great. He booked Matt O'Reilly, and I had no issue with him booking Matt O'Reilly, but my issue was that about 5 minutes later, there was the exact same tackle on the other side. I think it might have been Boyle, and he didn't book it, and it was just that there was inconsistency. Then there were a couple of decisions towards the end. I'm trying to think. There was one towards the end which was just completely baffling, and you're sort of saying, right, was it where Maeda just knocked two guys? That it sort of just came together, and he knocked the pair of them, and it got pulled back again. And it's very easy when it's 6-1 in your favour. You go, oh, well, what's the point? Like, it doesn't matter. But by the same token, that same decision would have been made if that game was 1 each, and you're playing a game to try and get the title.
You're fucking right, Terry, mate.
But then it's going to be all right next week. Varsa.
Well, that leads me on. I'm just going to quickly say, I mean, obviously, me and Jonathan will have a good chat about that on the Monday Club, more in depth, what the impacts we think VAR's going to have. But the thing is, I mean, if we're putting the microscope, and it's not a microscope, if we're bringing any sort of attention to the refs right now, I mean, times that by 1,000,000, we're going to want to know who the three guys were that had the video camera in front, the video footage in front of them. We're going to want to know all of this. It is going to go. I don't think we know what we're in for here. This will be.
I think it's going to be the biggest circus to hit Scottish football. And
circus is a great word. Circus is a great word. Seamus Weatherall comes in, eating my words today on the Moy thing. That'll be you and me both, Seamus. So I like that, mate. And you know what? Fucking go on, Moy. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I still think it's an underwhelming signing, like the optics of it. But anyway, that's just my decision. I think I like his performance today. We will talk, though, about the goal scorers because it was James Forrest who kicked it off. Now, James Forrest gets a hat-trick. He becomes one of not that many in an exclusive members club, 100 goals. This boy ain't a striker, Terry. This boy has been at Celtic, 13 seasons consecutively now, something like that. He's been in the top team. I think Neil Lennon was the one who gave him his debut, if I remember. I think it was Lenny. He certainly rated him highly. Forrest has got it tight off as his whole Celtic career, mate. No one's actually been tougher mentally, I think, than maybe James Forrest for the amount of shite he's took. He could have easily at times packed up his stuff, went to the Championship in England at a comfy mid-table team, not had the same scrutiny, scored a few goals, probably got the same wages as he gets at Celtic. Instead, he stuck it out. He stuck out, and even this season has been a bit part player as he was last year. I know injuries dictated a lot of last season, but this year he's been bit part whilst fully fit. Never mumps and moans, never see him in a huff. Comes in from the cold, starts the day, gets his just rewards. We're now talking about him starting. Is this guy getting on the brink? And this is not my opinion. I'm just asking the question because it was put in our WhatsApp group chat by Connor Carr. Get him back on soon. And he was saying, is he going to be considered a legend yet? I would consider him a great, not a legend, Terry. But I think that's fair comment, though, isn't it? It's a fair debate now you're entering into. As he reaches the twilight years, we've got to give him the respect he deserves at some point. And I don't think he's ever had a fair crack of it as in terms of his merits in the team, whilst other players probably carried a lot more favour despite not putting in the numbers that Forrest has. Shall we give him some sort of accolade right now to cling on to? I think he's a great. I don't think he's a legend.
I was on the show a few weeks ago, Bhoys, and we were talking about players who come in, they have one good season, and all of a sudden they're being talked about as legends. And I kind of just thrown out there that looking at somebody like James Forrest, who's gave their whole career to the club and things like that, then somebody sort of jumped on me and said, James Forrest, a legend, you're having a laugh. And I wasn't really saying he's a legend, but what the point I was trying to get across is we bring in somebody from overseas and he has a good season and all of a sudden we're putting him on a pedestal. But we sometimes overlook someone like James Forrest who, and there was an argument on one bus journey that we were on that I think where really? I was saying around I like the fact that he gave his whole career to Celtic. The counter argument to that was he wasn't good enough to go somewhere else. And I don't really buy that. I think he was good enough to go to probably lower end Premiership. He probably did have offers at some stage. Yeah, the normal journey, then on to Liverpool the season after. But
maybe that would be stretching it. Actually,
it's a great achievement. It's a great achievement for him, as you say. He's not a striker. He's a wide player. But also you've got to consider, especially right throughout his career, but more so in the early years, he was unfit most of the time. He wasn't playing. He probably wasn't even playing 50% of the games that he could have played in. So for him to reach that 100, for him to be the 30th player, I think, to get there, it's a really good achievement for him.
And Danielle there as well. Look at that, but Danielle saying one assist away from 100, one assist from 100 assists, and only Larson and Jinky. That is some company to be in. And do you know what I think, though, Terry? I think it's Stubbsy's coming in. Hope you're well. Thank you for jumping on the bus, Stubbsy. He's saying a great, but Bhoys, his stats and his longevity get there. I think as well, though, one of the things you have to admire is this isn't a guy who's been constantly in a comfort zone for 13 years, Terry. And, you know, he's just racked up numbers through default because, well, if you've been in Celtic's first team and you're a winger, you're going to gradually get up to these sort of numbers. He's been there through, you know, tough times. I think the stop in the 10 when they broke his heart, do you know what I mean? When that happened, considering he'd been an absolute cornerstone of that. In fact, probably as much involvement as anyone, him and Calmac. So that would have really hurt him. I mean, it could have been easy for him to have slipped out the back door at that point, 29, 30 years old, go for a big payday somewhere. If Martin Boyle can go to United Arab Emirates, for example, for, I don't know, 2 million quid a year, don't tell me Jamesy wouldn't be, you know, a person of interest to go just see out the final years in the sun. He stuck it out at Celtic. He was under a manager this year. We know Ange has brought in a bucket load of wingers, mate, since he came in. We know it's a position that he's got a real sort of profile of player. We know Jamesy, unfortunately, Father Time catches up, is slowing down slightly. He doesn't have that electric Maeda pace, that Jota pace. He's not got the ability of Jota anyway, to be fair to him. But what he's done, he's stuck in. And now you look at that time under Ronnie Dyler for a couple of years as well. Where's Celtic going here? He probably could have got his decent move to East Southampton at that point. He sticks it out at Celtic. He works under the best manager we've had probably the last sort of 15 years since Martin. Sound that Claxon, in fact. Sound that Claxon. That wasn't bad. We're doing all right, mate. Do you know what I mean? Where is it? There it is. Hey.
Yeah.
But, you know, under Brendan Rodgers, it's funny that under a brilliant manager, he fucking flourished. James Forrest, again at this point, could have put his nose out of joint because Paddy Roberts is getting 2-year loan deals and things and looks like he's going to be the man. All that did was inspire James Forrest to become a better player. Now, we're looking at him today. In 2022, he must be, 31, 32 years old? Out in for the cold Terry, boom, hat-trick. Just like old times, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. And funny, I actually forgot all about Patrick Roberts. It kind of felt from that period where Patrick Roberts came in, it was like an attempt almost to keep Forrest out of the side. And yes, I probably didn't expect to see him starting the game again, to be honest. You know, when he came on, did he come on away in Leipzig the other night? And I was kind of like, where's that come from? We haven't seen him. We haven't seen him for ages.
He put in a wicket. It was him who did the cross for that Giacomakis miss at the end midweek.
Yeah, but I think he might come on at the end of the Leipzig away game. I might be wrong. I thought it was maybe him and McCarthy, and I'm going, right, where have these two come from? You know, they haven't had any involvement, and all of a sudden they appear. But as I say now, I think it's League Cup during the week. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't start, and hopefully he gets that 100th assist. That would be a lovely set of stats to have.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be an unbelievable company as well to be in, and people can look at how many years and all that, but you can't take anything away. This guy's not a striker, he's a winger, you know, and I think his numbers, you only need to look, see for just a recent example, right, and just to poke a bit of fun, because I can't help myself. You look at that wee Dafty Kent who's about to slip out the back door in a free for them, they thought they were going to get 15, 20 million pounds for, you know, look at his numbers. James Forrest never had a season as shite as he's had the last 3-4. You know, his numbers don't add up. You know, his numbers don't add up.
I think Forrest scored more today than Kent scored last season. He'd only scored 2 or something last season.
Do you know what I mean, though? You're going, like, Forrest would be getting absolute pelters if he produced Ryan Kent numbers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I think you've got to go, if this guy can come in and have that sort of impact, then Angie's 3-year deal that we didn't say it was a disaster that he was signed the 3-year deal. I think we were all, would you call it surprised? I think it was peculiar. That's what we probably felt it was, a bit peculiar. Now Ange's obviously said in his post-match, no, that's fucking why he got it. And he said, you know, the team's full of moving parts, and I like that. And he says the season is always going to have there's always going to be spells where you need to rely on different types of characters, different types of players. That could be due to injuries, suspensions, or loss of form. I think all those actual factors have contributed to James Forrest getting his start today. And as you rightfully say, double dare you to take him out now.
I think the perception probably was he's being kept around. I think it was yourself that sort of used the ambassador kind of role for all these players coming in from all across all these lads coming in all across the world. It's good to have a few Celtic lads around to let them know what it means to play for the club. Blah blah blah. But as you say, if he's not on that team sheet during the midweek, I'd be very, very surprised after a performance like that.
That's credit to him, though, Terry, isn't it?
Oh, like, absolutely.
This is a tough school to get into in terms of we know that in the forward areas, this is where Ange has really signed well. This is where the strike rate we talk about Ange having in the transfer market. When you look in the forward areas, you go, that's really where he's came alive with recruitment, and we've all been blown away by. And it's been such a joy watching it for different reasons. A lot of the different forward players, but fucking by God, to get in that front three is a mission.
The combinations that are available now are quite good. And as I say, you wouldn't have expected to see Forrest, Giacomakis, and Haksabanovic up front. You're probably looking and saying that's your second front three behind Abada, Kyogo, and Jota, and then throw Maeda in somewhere because he's always either on at half time or off at half time.
He's in halfway house.
We've got so many options up there. So again, I'd imagine we'll need the full squad at some stage across the season. We're needing them now with guys being out, but some of the options. I mean, how do you leave Haksabanovic out in a minute as well after that first half as well? Giakoumakis again. You go back to the same thing again. Giakoumakis or Kyogo after Giakoumakis scoring 2 today, looking really confident. Kyogo not just as confident best.
Let's talk about Giakoumakis. Terry, this guy starts games, he scores goals. It's undeniable. Yeah. Celtic are a different. The thing is, Celtic's wingers are going to create opportunities. Now, Kyogo, as we know, is a man who can bag plenty goals, right? Let's not beat around the bush. We know it. I just think there's a ruthless streak, an old school side to Giakoumakis as well. He doesn't remind me of modern players, Terry. I think he's more of a throwback to a traditional centre forward. I think he could be, by the way, doing with a partner at times. I think today, Ange will go, mate, we just won 6-1. It fucking works with one up top. Shut your stupid wee mouth. And that's fair enough. That, of course he can do that. But what we've seen for Giakoumakis starting, mate, is when balls go in the box, he doesn't think twice. You're talking about that first finish. It's so natural. It's in his stride. It's seamless. And then the ball's hitting the top bins, mate. And he's not, as you say, this isn't a wild strike. You know, it's a controlled rocket into the top corner. Yeah. See his next one. I know he gets the deflection. But look at the confidence he hits it with. That used to see that all the time with the King of Kings and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
The first one, he started a celebration on the first one before he even hit it. He knew when the ball was coming across that he was getting it. Here's the thing, though, boys. I know Giakoumakis had an excellent season in Holland the year before, which obviously attracted clubs to him. Where the hell's he been before that? Because his record before that was awful. And if you see somebody with that natural instinct for goals, it wouldn't matter whatever league he was playing in. He was bound to get opportunities and score. It's a strange one because he's 27, something like that, and he'd one good season in Holland. Now we're seeing a really composed, clinical finisher, and you're thinking, right, where was this guy at until he was 26?
I remember another striker signing for us at 26 years old from the Dutch leagues, mate, that went on to have a career, and you thought, who the fuck was he in Feyenoord's reserves? You know, King of Kings joined us at 26 years old, and
he'd scored in a World Cup at that stage. Yeah.
But still, though, it wasn't like let's be honest, though, considering what he then went on to do, you're like, how did he get up to 26 and be available for 650 grand? It's crazy. Whereas with Giakoumakis, it's a slightly different story. You need to remember with Giakoumakis, we got him at 2.6 million, I think it was, because of a relegation release clause. So, no offense to any VV Venlo fans, but fucking get it right up because he got relegated because we couldn't have afforded it was a £12 million release clause if they'd stayed in the league. I think he's a £12 million striker. I'm not exaggerating. This isn't green tinted or chaos tinted glasses. This guy has got something the rest just don't. And I think he brings a streak to Celtic, a hunger, an energy, a bit of aggression. Like, I'll fucking show you. And I love that. I think we need that. People might think football's moved on from that. We play in the Scottish Premier League, mate. It ain't moved on from that whatsoever. Don't kid yourself on. We don't just play on red carpets like down in England. It's whose technique's the best, who can run the most kilometres. Sometimes it's got to take sleeves rolled up. Let's fucking have it. I don't think there's anyone more up for winning this league title again in that Celtic squad than Chaos Giakoumakis. That is why I love him. He's got to get a more regular run though now. He can't be just pulled out willy-nilly, Terry. He's got to start getting treated, I think, with the same respect that Kyogo would. I think it was a wrench for Ange to leave Kyogo out today. I don't think it'd be a wrench for Ange to leave Giakoumakis out. It's a lovely headache to have, right? Of course it is.
But we've seen now, boys, he is prepared to let them on the pitch at the same time, even if it's only for a couple of minutes.
Well, it was interesting because I didn't really think it played out enough to get what Ange's vision of them both being on the park. It was hard to tell if Kyogo was playing, and maybe the Haksabanovic role came midweek last week. Where Haksabanovic, we didn't play a number 6, so Haksabanovic started in the hole. I think that was the idea when Kyogo came on, was to play him in sort of in that area, but he just didn't see enough.
Just love to have got that 20 minutes just to see was there any kind of relationship there. It would have been good.
It would have been, because Terry, this is something that we're maybe banging a drum on, and maybe we've got a campaign to see them both together. But when you watch them, I think they've both got infectious personalities for different reasons. I think the work rate, the humility of Kyogo, the fact he's like, He's almost like a child. Do you know what I mean? He's like bouncing about at the fans. He just looks like someone who's so happy playing the best years of his career at Celtic Football Club. And I just think that's a joy to watch. Giakoumakis still triggers you in a different way. He brings out that feeling in you when you're watching the game, and everyone knows it. When you're watching, he's the one that goes fucking into them. And he does it. He creates that. He stirs that feeling in you. Do you know what I mean? When you're watching football, and these emotions are very important, I think, as a football fan. People think everything's now a science and it's all about XG and all that nonsense. Well, I like the fact football isn't a science. I like the fact emotion you cannot put down on a spreadsheet. You know, you just can't do it. And Giakoumakis brings more to the party, I think, than just what he can do with the ball at his feet. I would love to know his XG, by the way, because fucking hell, this guy's conversion rate is phenomenal. Terry, will Giakoumakis now get a run as a start in the Celtic team? I already can tell by your face you don't see it.
No. Kyle goes first choice. That's it.
It's mad though.
Going back to what was said about Forrest though, given that Forrest scored a hat-trick today, yes, he's come in from the cold. I don't care. He's the form right winger. He starts next game. If you're going by that same principle, then Giakoumakis has to start the next game as well.
But we've never went by that principle with Giakoumakis. No.
He doesn't go by that principle with Giakoumakis. He plays when Kyogo needs a rest, and that's it.
I think it's very interesting. It's very interesting, this, because I think at the end of the day, whilst it's a lovely headache to have, I think it is going to potentially become a fucking headache, right? Because it's a riddle that needs to be solved. The manager will know it, because one thing I think you can guarantee is Kyogo might be all, nicey and that, but he'll have an ego. He'll have an agent as well. And the second he thinks he's sitting out matches, he might be the one who starts nipping it and going, whoa, I ain't come all the way here. I've got plenty of big clubs looking at me. I can make more Wonga, so I better be playing. Giakoumakis, by all accounts, it seems, is just getting the heat down, working hard. But of course you'll be fucked off, Terry. If we're fucked off, then of course he is, right? That's just fact. I think it's an interesting one. I wonder if we got a bit of insight, albeit cut short, but a wee bit of insight that Ange is beginning to relent his stubbornness on this one. And he's maybe going, the fucking bus is right. Those two are going to need to at some point be on the fucking pitch at the same time. They're going to need to be, because they're both too good to be leaving out. Do you know what I mean? And Yeah, go on.
All right, no, go on ahead.
I just think as well, when you've got a striker, Terry, I think that's him up to now 18 goals and 19 starts. I'm not quite sure in our history, well, not in our history, in my living memory of being a Celtic fan, we've ever had a player with numbers like that, Terry, that we and you both just agreed on won't be a regular starter. It's unheard of. And I'm not moaning here, by the way. I don't want to think I'm being negative. I'm just going, it's a head fuck that is on the manager's got to sort out. It's a nice headache to have, Terry, but it's one that could become, tough to work out as well.
It's if he was the starting striker and he was getting the majority of the minutes, I reckon he'd be scoring 30 to 40 goals. And thinking back a little bit to Griffiths and Dembele, I know it's a completely different thing, but when Dembele came in and Griffiths was scoring the goals, it was kind of the same debates. Dembele had a slow start and people were going, well, he's been brought in because he's the summer signing and this and this. But actually, if you look at it, Griff's coming on, Griffiths is scoring the goals. Griffiths should be starting, kind of thing. But I think today showed us that he is prepared to have them on the pitch at the same time. So if I go back to what was said previously around all these different combinations that we have, one of those combinations has to include those types of players, or both of those players. I actually thought today, with Abada being touch and go, Jota being out, I thought there was a reasonable chance that Kyogo might have started on the right and Giakoumakis through the middle. I thought that was potentially going to happen. Obviously, it hasn't. He's gone for Forrest, and that's brilliant because it turned out to be the right thing. But
that's the stroke.
If the two guys stay fit, I think he's possibly got fear as well of they are quite injury prone, and we did see Giakoumakis picked up his knock today. Kyogo's on a few minutes. He's down.
I know.
He's down.
They're
What happens?
injury prone.
What happens if you play the two of them and the two of them get stretchered off?
You picked that third striker that we didn't sign in the summer, Terry.
You're back to Jordan Larson.
Back to Jordan Larson. Everyone just circles me. Honestly, I'm
What's
like
he done actually? What's Jordan Larson done? I've not paid any attention to.
I lost fucking interest after I put the jersey with Larson on the back. I've actually got Larson on the back of my top, so I didn't turn around. I was that excited by my own rumour. No, I mean, I think undeniably you're right to an extent. You do get the fear, because see, when I seen Kyogo limping, I thought, wow, maybe there is a hex on these two being on the part. But you can't help but go back to the debate though, Terry, and go, are we definitely sure we don't need a third striker? Are we 100, like, everyone's cool with this? I don't know. I think it might be something they visit in January. And I also think with a third striker, it would take Angie's dilemma into a new realm, because he's got three guys to keep happy in that position. And by the way, 3 to even 1 position isn't all that unusual when you look throughout the rest of the squad. And even in history, when it used to play 2 up top, you always had 4 strikers. You didn't have 3, you had 4. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think 3 to the 1 would be that ridiculous, particularly with injuries that Kyogo and Giakoumakis seem desperate to get and put us through the mill. We could talk about chaos all night, Terry. Maida gets the goal at the end. Back to scoring, I think it was Scott Cameron in the chat earlier, back to scoring the shitest goals ever. Love to see it. He needed that, didn't he?
Aye. Hopefully that's sort of the catalyst for him to kick on. We know that he's been able to score a lot of goals. He scored 25 odd in the season before that he came to us, but as opposed to Giakoumakis, he just doesn't look to me as a natural finisher, but he's able to get into the positions where he will score goals, but he just won't score the same kind of ratio. I'd love to just see some of the stats from that season that he had in Japan. We don't know
for so much.
Yeah, I know. And he's actually, I think he's the only one of the Japanese contingent that's kind of getting starting time for Japan at the minute. So I think he's probably considered ahead of Kyogo in terms of the Japan team, but he just doesn't look natural in front of goal. He doesn't look composed, but hopefully that goal, we do need him to be scoring goals. I genuinely think that we need all of these forward players to be scoring goals. Hopefully that one today, as I say, sort of kicks him on a little bit. He's going to get lots of game time, and we need him to be turning that into goals and assists. Just one other one when it's in my head, Boise. Obviously, Moy started today.
Yeah,
but he started today in the 10 role for me, and I've probably been guilty of where everybody was kind of on the O'Reilly bus, shall we say. And I was on it too, but I just wanted a little bit more from him. I was calling out for him to take a wee bit of responsibility, stand up a little bit. And I felt when Calmac was in, I think everybody was maybe happy to let him sort of take responsibility. But I have to say, O'Reilly, since Calmac's gone out, I have to say O'Reilly, for me, he stepped up. He stepped into a role that I probably didn't think he had in his locker, was that sort of holding role. And I don't think he's ever going to go about throwing himself into wild challenges and stuff, but he doesn't have to. If you play that role smart with your brain, and he does seem to have a football brain.
Look at tackle midweek.
Aye. Yeah. He did, yeah.
And there was moments you thought, he's fucking game, but I think he reads the game well. But I also think, I love that point, Terry. The responsibility when the guy who's fucking carrying the whole thing, basically, effectively, and the players are comfy with that, obviously, and I don't mean this to be a moany bastard. I think there's an element of truth in that. It's quite easy. Calmac takes responsibility because he's that engrossed in this all, and it's a subconscious thing, probably, like shift the responsibility on. Well, take him out the equation. Who's stepping up? Matt O'Reilly, you're putting number 6. See midweek what I loved about Matt O'Reilly, talking, mate. See if you watched him talking off the ball. He's literally telling players where to pass it when he was free, and I just thought, I don't know if it's maybe been something I'm looking for because he's in that role more, but it certainly seemed to me to stand out that, wow, he's feeling different. There's a different vibe to Matt O'Reilly, and I like it. By the way, he's 21 years old, 22 years old maybe. This guy is stepping up at that age. What's he going to be like at 27, 28? And I know it won't be in a Celtic shirt. I fucking conceded that. But this boy is going to be a proper player, Terry. But I like what you're saying there. Sometimes the responsibilities that get associated with players can sometimes give players, I don't mean a free pass, but sometimes they've probably got it a wee bit too comfy. The one thing about Calmac coming out of the team is they're all looking at each other. Who's going to step up? For a 21-year-old, O'Reilly's 22 in November. Thank you, Ryan Kelly. For him to be the one doing that in that role, I think that's really impressive, Terry. And that excites me as well, by the way, because he's in a long-term deal and he's pivotal to what we want to do going forward.
In the short term, it reassures me because I probably had in my head the two players that we couldn't replace were Carter Vickers and McGregor. And I'm not saying we've replaced McGregor, but I'm just a little bit more relaxed about him being out until probably the new year than I was 2 weeks ago, just because I didn't see O'Reilly being the player that went in there. I thought we were going to be looking at a scenario where it's Moy, McCarthy, Abelgard, one of those players, and us relying heavily on someone who has yet to show us that they can do it. And I was very surprised to see O'Reilly dropping back there, but certainly based on the midweek performance, based on today's performance, I'm a little bit more relaxed than I was about McGregor being out.
Well, that's a huge thing as well, Terry. Unfortunately, a lot of damage has been done though whilst McGregor's been out in terms of the Champions League exit. I'm hurting over that because I just think, again, today is brilliant being back to 6-1. I'm not going to complain. I was buzzing the day, do you know what I mean? But you look at the competition now that we're going to face, and I just think these guys are ready to test themselves against better players on a regular basis. It's just a pity that it looks like, I'm not writing it off, it looks likely, we've got 2 more games in Europe that won't quite have the same intensity or expectation on them because of the standings in the group, and that's probably going to be it for Europe this year. I think that's a real pity, and I think that hinders slightly the evolution of this team because I don't think we learn much today, bar the points you've just made about a Celtic side without Callum McGregor in it, and can we cope? Yes, we can. Aaron Moy playing further forward surprised people. We've all associated him, myself mainly, as this number 6 who's came in. 4 number 6s Andrew signed. Doesn't fancy any of them, it seems. Well, actually, we seen a different side to Moy today. He was more creative. He got his 2 assists, as you say. He played the full 90 minutes, which, again, a luxury that I'm not surprised Andrew folded him, to be honest, because, Hacksaw must be sitting there at times going, well, what's the story here? How does he get 90 minutes? But then you've seen, even though it is a cavalier approach that we're playing, James McCarthy, again, not coming on for that 2-minute cameo like he was last year. It's a solid 15 minutes real time, and then I don't know how many we were added on, 4. So he's got nearly 20 minutes action again this week, and he seems to be playing a more prominent role at this moment in time in the squad than I expected as well. Whilst I don't see him ever, being someone that we're going to tip to start the next game or anything like that.
He scored a hat-trick during the week, what did he say?
3 assists for Forrest.
I don't think there's any danger of McCarthy scoring a hat-trick, to be honest.
No, but again, he's coming out in a game, and do you know what, guys like this, and by the way, they're all fucking handsomely played, so sometimes I kind of like snap myself out of it and go, of course they're working hard. Imagine being on those wages, Terry, wouldn't be bad. Do you know what I mean? Get your wee fortnight in Tenerife, you know what I mean? No bother. I just think, but he's proven that he's got a good attitude, because I think Celtic will try to get him out the door in the summer, by all accounts. They've not, and he is not just sort of collected his paycheck. He's obviously impressive. I think the one thing, Ange doesn't give out free tickets to players that he's not signed. You know what I mean? But yes, we can question some of Ange's selections, some of his subs and favouritism involved, things like that. And we have questioned that on the bus. I'm not saying we're spot on it all, but just an interesting theory with some of them. James McCarthy's probably got a harder mountain to climb, I think, than most. We've seen Liam Scales punted out on loan already, you know what I mean? James McCarthy, they tried to get rid of. So he obviously wasn't an Ange Postecoglou signing originally. However, he's featured in the Champions League this year. He's had valuable game time again today. The squad, I think David Ferguson nails it here. Is everyone just improving And then by improving, Ange takes that bias away and goes, no, James, you're worthy of getting 15, 20 minutes because you're adapting to my system, my ethos.
You cut a little bit on me there.
Did I cut off?
You cut a little tiny bit. You were talking about James McCarthy. You're adapting to my system. Your
ethos and all that. And so do you think that's what it's down to, though, Terry? He's seeing players improving all over the place, and then he can remove any sort of favouritism or bias or that and go, do you know what? You get a fair crack of the whip, mate. It's interesting.
It must be very difficult for someone like McCarthy, who's a Celtic fan. He's seen an opportunity to join the club early in his career, not materialise. He's then gone down to play in the top league in England and has had a reasonable career. But he's then got his dream move later in his career, and for various reasons, it just hasn't worked out. And then how do you feel when you know that your employer is trying to punt you on somewhere else, and that doesn't happen, and then you're stuck. You're there to the next window. You're not getting a great deal of game time. So to be fair to him, and to be fair to a lot of the sort of fringe players, and it goes back to what we were saying about Forrest as well, because up until a couple of weeks ago, he did absolutely nothing. And they all seem to have remained professional. They all seem to have got themselves into reasonable shape, and they all seem to be ready to be used when they're needed. And I think we don't know who the next one will be. We're relying on one of these guys, a Forrest or a McCarthy, an Abelgard. Yep. So you don't know which one of these guys who will be needed due to an injury, a suspension, any of these things. And it must be a difficult one for the manager, because as much as he says he doesn't have his first 11, I think he probably does. And then he has his go-to guys after that. There's probably 3, 4, 5. And then you've got the other guys who go into training every day. They work hard, but they're only getting, and you're talking 15, 20 minutes there. It's still very, very little after maybe 5 days training during the week, or
I was
2 or 3 days. Comparison to 60 seconds. Or I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I take it.
I know exactly what you mean. But if you're sitting there and you're going, "Fuck, I'm getting 15 minutes every 2 weeks," how does that make you feel? But you've still got to be ready for that opportunity should it arrive at some stage. I really wanted to work for McCarthy, to be honest. I wanted to sign him when he was at Hamilton. I thought that was an opportunity. I think Mowbray was the manager at that point, and we were haggling over it. Was it not
Tony Mowbray's fault, though? No, I
don't think it was his fault, but I think he was the manager at the time. But I think we were haggling over like 500 grand or something, and
it kind of just, it's freaking embarrassing. Call it for what it is. Fucking embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? You look at stuff like that, and you go, "With James McCarthy, we would be talking about him like James Forrest earlier." Like, could we be if he'd been signed, as a 18-year-old baller for Hamilton? Do you know what I mean? For between 1 and 2 million, I think we're having similar conversations. I really, really do. We'll go to the comments for a wee change, Terry, to wrap up the last 10 minutes, because I'll be honest, I'm running out of stuff to talk about.
I'll throw one in here. What about Joe Hart with the wee dodgy kick out again? Kind of went under the radar because the guy was inside the box, but it was similar to the Leipzig one.
I think it's interesting. I don't know what the script is there. I don't know if Joe Hart's been overconfident in his own ability at times, and I'm like, whoa, you need to rein that in. Or this is he's feeling under pressure because of the system to try things that he's not actually comfortable doing. And I'm like, I don't think Postecoglou means you're fucking got to be like fucking Beckenbauer, mate. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just he just wants you to move the ball quick. That's what he's saying. He's going to get the ball into feet, play, outside your own box, be a third centre back when we're in possession. Do you know what I mean? But save the ball, right? See when the shots come in, save the ball. I don't think he's going, "Hey, Joe, I want you to split." See when their front three come in, I want you to split it through them, outside of the boot. You know what I mean? I think he's overcomplicating the task that he's been assigned, Terry.
And again, I think a 6-1 result kind of you don't think about things like that. A bit like the referee, you can kind of shrug it off. But if that had been a 1-1 game and and the Hibs player had been outside the box, and he kicks it straight to him, and he sticks it in the net, and you've blew the points. It's a different conversation. What have you got? What have you got in the comments there, Boise?
Yeah, let's see what we've got. I like going to the comments every now and then. Oh, well, Paul McFarlane, just to follow on your quote, Paul comes in. How you doing, Paul? Hope you are well, mate. Good to have you on the bus. And he said, how many mistakes does Joe Hart need to make before Siegrist gets these chances? Do you think Siegrist is very much, obviously we know that Hart's the number one. Could Siegrist play his way into contention? We've just been talking there about opportunities being afforded to the likes of James McCarthy, who we thought were in Siberia. James Forrest starts today, who we thought was along with him and being club ambassador and all that. Tom Boyd before his time. I mean, is there a chance for Siegrist to get in? Or do you think that door's firmly shut? It's Hart, first choice, second choice, third choice is Joe Hart. And for Siegrist to get a game, it'll be a deliberate decision in either a cup competition or an injury suspension to the number one.
My own personal thoughts, it's going to be very hard for him to get in this season. Even though Carter Vickers is wearing the armband, what I noticed today was Hart seemed to be the guy leading the huddle, and I think the influence that he's brought is one of the biggest characteristics that he brings to the team. But I know we talked maybe the game away to Shakhtar. I kind of thought that he might have done better, and there's been a few times this season where we've kind of questioned him. Even today, beat at his near post. I think he'll be disappointed getting beat at his near post. The game during the week, I thought he made a lot of good stops in the Leipzig game. I thought there were times that they were kind of cutting us open at will, but he was standing firm, obviously, until later in the game when they did score. I think Siegrist is capable, and I think the club possibly look at him potentially as Hart's successor. But it's how do you make that
30 years old?
How do you make that change? Yeah. He's not
old. I mean, he's not
a kid. He's not a kid. No. Boise's cut on me again. In terms of Siegrist, I think what Boise's saying is, you back? I was just going to say, in terms of Siegrist, yeah, do you know what? He's been playing regularly for the last load of years in his career. Is he going to sit there and wait for 2 years, 3 years for the number one jersey to come about? Possibly not. I think every jersey is available, but I just don't see unless Hart's making mistakes on a game by game basis, or Siegrist gets an opportunity through injury, or he gets a game through choice and he has an absolutely magnificent performance. I just think it's going to be difficult. Not sure. I don't see him getting the jersey through choice this season.
It's interesting with Siegrist as well. The only player Postecoglou signed from within our league.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I would say that's a compliment to that is, I think, and I'll be honest, I've said this before, it's just my hunch. I don't think Hans rates Scottish football particularly highly. Not because he's not being respectful of it. I just think the product he's seen, he's going, that's shite. There's no one in the rest of these teams, the other 10 teams in this league that could come in and improve us. Siegrist did get that nod, though, to come in the squad. So I think there's a big compliment in that somewhere, Terry. But I agree. How does the transition happen from a Joe Hart, sort of giving up duties or being phased out, and Siegrist to come in without it being completely black and white and in your face? Hart's been dropped, Siegrist is playing. That's how it's always going to be. There's no smooth way of squaring that circle. So it's a difficult one. I do think as well, though, Strange Love comes in and he says, the opposition need to clear the box. And I think the pace that Celtic play, I think we've seen that before as well. Joe Hart running up to the ref about players not being out the box.
Aye.
I think it was against Rangers, actually, if I'm not mistaken, before. So I'm not entirely sure about that. Whether I'm still convinced Pep Guardiola got rid of Hart because of what he could do with a football at his feet. Right, that was the reason. I mean, he was a bit of a legend there at this point, and won multiple trophies. But it was because of what he could do with the ball at his feet. I just think at times Joe Hart in his head is maybe over complicating. I think a simple assignment Ange will be giving him is you get the ball, find a player, pass it. I don't want you booting it long. And Joe Hart's taking that almost literal as he needs me to find a belter or a pass every time. Can I go long? And it's like, no, if there's nothing on, big boy, then you start trying to thread it through. Do you know what I mean? You know, cushion passes 25 yards in between, you know, through the eye of a needle. We don't need that, Joe. We don't need it, pal. Anyway, we'll move on from Joe Hart because at the end of the day, today was a success story. There was one other player, though, Terry, before we go, Dom88 brings up, and he's got a point. We need to get Gucci a bit of time, man. I think he looks okay as well. He made the bench today, out from another one out from the cold. I don't know what to make of Vida Gucci. I didn't think his performances really had set the header alight. Other people, though, really liked what they'd seen. Each to their own, of course. I've just got a feeling he's very much in the background. I don't think he's going to make any sort of dent in the first team positions, Terry. Certainly not this season. I don't see it.
No, I mean, I don't know how much of his time he's been fit and how much he hasn't, because he's been in and out of the team. Then he's gone missing for long periods. Now he's back in. He's probably like a few players where he hasn't really set the hell on fire, but he hasn't done an awful lot wrong either. But he's now part of this bank of about 5 number 6s who are all behind Matt O'Reilly. So how do they get in?
That's a brilliant point, Terry. See, when Matt O'Reilly's the best number 6 at the club in Calmac's absence, and you've signed 4, that 4 must be fucking chat again, man.
So you've got Ideguchi, you've got McCarthy, you've got Abelgard. Obviously, is new and he hasn't had very much game time at all. But I think there's just a group of those players who are all pretty much appear to me anyway to be a much of a muchness. And whether you bring on McCarthy, whether you bring on Abelgard, whether you bring on Ideguchi, does it really matter? They seem to all sort of that they're coming on to perform similar kind of roles, show the game up, see the time out. Probably been a little bit unfair on Abelgard because he hasn't played for a period of time, but it just looks like a strange signing to me because we've brought him in on loan. Is he really going to get a lot of game time between now and the end of the season? I don't know. If O'Reilly's now capable of playing in that role and McGregor's the first choice in that role, and you've got 3-4 other players who can play that role,
and we know Angel's signing a midfielder in January.
He's signing another one. He's
guaranteed. Certainties in life, they talk about death and taxes. Ange will sign a midfielder in January. I would bet £1 million on it, mate, if I had £1 million. Keep liking, subscribing, and sharing, and maybe one day I will. It'll certainly improve my chances of being able to put a £1 million bet on Terry one day.
Yes.
But yeah, I think we will sign a midfielder in January again. I think I need to get you one for me. But anyway, we'll leave on a positive note. Today it was 6 of the best. Celtic 6-1, back to title winning form, you could say. We're back 5 points clear, baby. James Forrest is a man who's now scored 100 goals for Celtic. He is about to, if he gets one more assist, join exclusive company with the King of Kings and Jinky Johnson, two of the greatest Celts of all time. Sensational work from James Forrest today. We've seen what Chaos does from the start. Give him a run, Ange, will you? From one great striker, though, in Chaos Giacomakis, to another. It's Chris Sutton. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Cheers.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.